Hello and welcome. I am Matt Roddy, and this is the Greater Prescott podcast, where we talk about, you guessed it, all things Greater Prescott. Today, I want to welcome my guest, Paul from Cox Custom Pickups. Paul, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. I shared with you before the podcast that just yesterday, I had a friend say he bought a guitar a couple days ago.
Yes.
I informed him, hey, I'm having this guy named Paul, and he does pickups. And my friend is like, what's a pickup? Which is hilarious. And I think a lot of people probably listening would kind of think the same. They don't know what a pickup is, but just let's get us started. What, in a nice succinct way, what is a pickup?
It basically creates the sound for the guitar. Kind of like a microphone for the guitar.
Yeah.
It's basically just either a bobbin, couple bobbins together. There's names for those as well.
Okay.
And, copper wire, magnets, and then it goes into a circuitry, volume, tone, whatever, and then straight to your amp. And that's what creates the sound of an electric guitar.
Gotcha.
And, yeah, so.
Yep.
But, the pickup also kind of will give you a distinct tone where, the guitar itself, the way it's built and everything, has its own characteristics, but that pickup is really going to amplify all of that and add some more to it. Because then you start getting into the variables of output. More output means more volume, more gain.
Yes.
Less output is going to be a cleaner sound. And, and there's...
I'm gonna stop you there because we're going to get into that.
Okay.
But for the people, that's what a pickup is, guys.
Okay.
It is that thing in your guitar. And I imagine there's other instruments with pickups.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier, pickups for acoustics and violins, and there's stuff for that, but that's kind of a completely different animal as far as how that stuff works, too.
Gotcha.
So,
all right. Well, cool. I'm excited. One of the fun parts about the podcast is that I have the opportunity to pick and choose, in a sense, what guests come on the show.
Yeah.
And I know nothing about what you do, but I do have a fascination. And you and I talked about remote control cars somewhat. There's something about how, like, kind of the specifics of just how kind of niche things are done. And I feel like you are an absolute niche type of product. And that's interesting to me. So I like to interview people like you, partly selfishly, because I'm interested in it.
Okay.
So let's just kick it off. Where were you born and raised? Let's start to tell the story.
Well, I was born in Inglewood, California.
Okay.
But I didn't reside in Inglewood. Okay. I've been kind of all over Southern California.
All right.
I got family in, my dad lived in Corona.
Okay.
But I mostly resided with my mom in Redondo Beach, California. Mm-hmm. And I had family in Orange County. Okay. So, everywhere.
Yeah.
Big Bear.
Did you enjoy growing up in Southern California?
At that time, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And it was, like I said, that I felt like I had all kinds of places I can go in California.
Yep.
So anywhere from the mountains, Big Bear, California.
Yes, that's awesome.
Because my grandparents had a cabin up there.
Ooh.
And I've had a lot of good
times
times
there. Never been up there.
It's nice. It's been a while since I've been there.
Okay.
But, they still have the cabin up there, and I still have fond memories of that.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
Then there was Corona, California, where my dad lived, and I had good times there, and Orange County, another place. So I do miss it, but, I'm not looking to move back anytime soon.
Yeah.
I think I've gotten used to a more slow down pace of being in Prescott Valley and Prescott.
Yeah.
Because it's funny when you're in here, you're driving, you're so used to it, right? And then you get to California, it's just like you're gripping the steering wheel because it's just so intense, driving in that traffic. Yep. But
yeah, we used to live down in Phoenix, and so it's the same thing when we go visit our family down there. It's like, wait, why is everyone driving so fast? Slow down, everybody! Come on, that kind of
But I missed the times and the people I've had, but I'm not eager to go back. So I've been here since, like, I want to say 94.
Okay. Did family move out here? How'd that work?
I was 12, I think. Yeah, I was like 12 when we moved out here. So going from...
So you just hitchhiked?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, they moved because it was a job offer
Okay.
from my stepdad. And so we just took a chance and did it. But being 12, I had no choice. But it's fine. It worked out for the best, But it was just weird going from going to the beach every day, surfing, boogie boarding, to...
Here.
Yeah, I didn't know what to do. I was literally a fish out of water.
It's a culture shock, especially at that age.
It was hard to relate to people in a way because my hobby was doing that.
Makes sense.
And so when I moved here, I just kind of, what do I do? So I think that's where like the guitar stuff came in.
Okay.
Because I needed something to do.
Yes.
So, I got into music. And then I got into wanting to play guitar. Mm-hmm. And then, another thing that I've always been fascinated with is how things work. So, of course, I got the guitar, and first thing I want to do is, how does it work? Yeah. And so that's kind of how that started.
Yeah. Real quick, I'll give you a minute to take a drink of coffee. I'm very similar to you in that when I was growing up, I'd get something and I'd go, how does this work? And before you know it, I had taken it apart and I'm like, shoot.
That's probably why I got into RC cars, because it was like, you can do whatever to them and it's endless.
Yeah. Yeah. Paul and I learned before the podcast that we were both into remote control cars. And we were actually may have even had, I had a team associated buggy. You may have had the same or something's very similar.
It was an older one.
Yeah. I mean, how old are you?
I'm
38.
Yeah, I'm 38.
There,
you gotta think about it. I think after 30, you don't care. Like, whatever.
I just had my birthday, so it was a fresh reminder. So
okay.
But yeah, the buggy was just the best example of how much you could change and just get your hands into it and your brain into it, and it was a blast.
Yeah,
so much fun.
Yeah, it's like you get so involved with it, and you start learning like, okay, what can make it better?
Yeah.
Like I can take the bushings out of this and put bearings instead.
Yes,
and, because it was all about performance, speed, and being fast, and So,
what was the name of the shop that you used to go to? Which is ultimately how you and I connected on Instagram.
Well, you had a guest on here. Her name was Tisha. And I've known her, and I can't remember the name of her shop.
Okay. But her folks' shop.
They had a hobby store in Prescott Valley, and it was there and I think they got it off someone who owned it before then. I don't remember. I'm sure if she's seeing this or whatever, she'll
let us know.
Yeah.
Cool.
But that's how I met her, and that's why I made the comment. Like, oh, I know her. I used to buy RC car parts from her. So, but great. Yeah, I mean, I was buying RC car parts and, the clear bodies that you had to paint inside out.
Absolutely. That was the best.
Which
I probably had 5 bodies at home with radically different paint jobs just because that's what I did. It was fun.
Yeah, it was fun, but then you had to kind of, like, reverse how you would do it because everything's inside out, so and I remember getting really crazy detailed with him, and I don't know why, because as soon as you put them on a guitar,
that's what you do when you're a
car,
teenager.
they just they just go to crap.
Yeah,
so.
That's so fun.
But
who introduced you to music?
I think it was something I kind of picked up on my own. But then again, everyone in the family has always enjoyed music, so it's
part of it.
Yeah,
cool.
But I think part of it is especially when I moved here, like I said, I was a fish out of water.
Yeah,
and it was kind
literally
of like, I mean, it was safe to say I was kind of like almost a loner the first year I was here, just because I didn't know how to react with people, because I'm like, everything was ready. Hey, let's go surfing. We go meet at the beach. Oh, can't do that.
Nope.
So it was definitely, a shock in that sense, like what to do. So music was kind of like, I can go there and get lost in that.
Yep.
And, but when I was getting into music, I wasn't quite into guitars just yet. So at that time I was just listening to mostly just like metal,
Okay.
Metallica. But then, I would, as soon as I got into the guitar and the more I got better at it, the more and more I started to branch out to different kinds of music.
Okay.
Just because, you play metal all the time. It's like, you want a break, you want something. Okay, well, let's try this. So you started getting more into the blues, country, reggae, whatever, just to kind of,
keep
mix
things
it up.
fresh. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely think the guitar for, branching myself out to being open to different things, So, I'll listen to anything that sounds good.
Awesome. What's on your playlist right now?
I don't know if I have a playlist.
Okay. In the last month,
it's funny because I pulled out an iPod the other day. It's like, oh man, it's so old. I'm like, really? It's not that old.
It's not that old, but
I still have
technology
a Walkman.
has just
yeah. But it's funny how things are coming back in style. Like records, like you can go to Walmart and buy.
No way.
Yeah, you can go into Walmart and buy vinyl records, but they're like $20, $25 a pop. Yeah, expensive.
Yeah.
And I believe tapes are coming back too. So
well, and this is actually a really interesting conversation to me. You know how this all works, right? So you and I are almost 40. So in a sense, what we grew up enjoying and doing, or for example, in my example, I really like cars. So I liked a Fox body Mustang when I was in 10. Well, now in a sense, a lot of 40-year-olds can afford that. So a lot of those things are starting to come back in terms of the cycle of people's interest, and they can afford it. So records, it's like, hey, I grew up with records, but I couldn't afford them or whatever.
Yeah.
But now I can. So
yeah.
Baseball cards are huge right now.
See,
totally random. It seems random, but we can now afford those cards that we otherwise couldn't.
Well, yeah, as a kid, you always wanted to get the rookie card of such and such or whatever. But I'm
just going to shut this heater off. Just keep talking.
Okay. Yeah, I had no idea that stuff was... I know it's still collectible. I just didn't know how big that was because I'm also a bit of a dork in a sense that, I still collect comic books.
Yeah.
But like you were saying, as now that you're an adult, you can afford those certain things, and now I have comic books that I couldn't get before.
That's it.
But again, that's like another hobby right there. So like the RC cars, like you can get completely lost in it if you don't keep tabs on yourself. So
where'd you go to high school?
I went to Bradshaw Mountain High.
Did you graduate 01?
2000.
2000. Oh, so you're older than me.
I attended the high school off of Glassford the very first year it was open.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because originally the high school, Bradshaw Mountain High School, was the older one that was next to it. I can't remember which one that is. I believe they also do Yavapai College courses there too as well. Okay. I'm not sure.
I'm not familiar.
I could be wrong on that. But anyways, that used to be the old high school, and then they were building the new one that's right there off of Glassford.
Okay.
And I attended that the first year it was open.
Okay.
So
you're an OG, Paul.
OG. But yeah, I started there, 4 years. So yeah, that was my high school. Okay. So I had good times there. So.
Yeah. What'd you do after college or after high school? Did you go?
I went to college, Yavapai. Mm-hmm. I never really graduated with anything, which I kind of wish I can go back in a sense, but I think that was a problem even then. I really didn't know what I wanted to go for.
That is a huge challenge.
And for me, it's like if I'm not into it, I know it's going to show. Even if I try, it's hard. Mm-hmm. But when I was taking college courses, I was trying to do stuff with small business.
Okay.
And I kind of wish I kept with it then, but it is what it is, But
mm-hmm.
I did a little bit of college, but I basically got into what I thought was going to be my main career, which was printing.
Okay.
And when I started that, because I went from working fast food for 2 years, and then I went to printing. And I went into printing without knowing anything about printing.
Okay.
And I started out as kind of what they call a finisher. Mm-hmm. And, it's mostly just grunt work.
I was going to say, you
just pick up bundles and you feed it in a machine. It puts it together.
Okay.
And you do that for hours and hours on end. It's very boring.
Mm-hmm.
But it was better money.
Yep.
But I knew real quickly, like, if I'm going to make more money, I want to get on the press. So I think I was there for 6 months, and I was on the press.
Nice.
I started at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And once again, I got a raise. I'm like, all right, cool.
Yep.
And I just kind of put my time in that. And so I didn't have time for college anymore. Yeah. And but I was able to walk away with doing that career. I bought myself a house at the age 22, and I still own the house.
Congratulations.
And it was good for me for 19 years. But after 19 years, I did it for 19 years. I was just like, wasn't enjoyable anymore. Just, I don't know, just all this stuff going on. I'm just like, I got to change it up. Mm-hmm. And I feel I'm still pretty young that I can still make that change.
Super young.
And so I decided to change careers in 2020, which is probably not the best year to do it, but luckily it actually ended up being the best thing.
There you go.
It was a bit of a challenge for everyone in my family because everyone was so used to me working nights. So now I'm working a day job. But now that I'm doing this new job, delivering appliances and stuff, and I told you earlier, I've gone from staring at a press for 8 hours to 12 hours a day to I don't know what I'm going to see that day.
You don't know where you are delivering.
Yeah, because I've been to places in Prescott I've never been before, and I've been here since '94. So it's really cool to see different parts of Prescott and Prescott Valley. And then, like I said, I've been out to Williams, Flagstaff, Rimrock, and all those places. Yes. And it hasn't gotten boring yet. Good. So
that's nice to be on the road.
Yeah.
Not on the road like a trucker's on the road, but what do they call it? Anyways, just like what you're doing, where you get to come home each night, but man, you get to go to some great areas. Yeah,
and you meet some interesting people, nice people. Sometimes, people are not having a good day. It is what it is. You just do what you got to do. Get in, get out. But like I said, this is the stuff you get to see, It's awesome because you don't know where you're going to go that day.
Yeah. Where is one place in the Prescott Valley area that you had never been to, but then you delivered there and you went, what? This place exists? Or what? Some unique, whether it's just an area or a house or something like that.
I don't know if I quite have an interesting story in that sense, but trying to think. There is one place that I've been trying to look for, and I finally spotted it because I keep hearing about it.
Okay.
And someone has delivered there before, and but it wasn't me, obviously. It's at, I forgot what they call it. It's like they call it like the bird nest. It's like this house in Prescott near Thumb Butte. It looks like
Falcon's Nest.
Yeah. And I always kind of wanted to just check it out. And I'm like, who in the heck would build that? But stuff like that. Yeah. But there's all kinds of places, little nooks and crannies in Prescott.
Isn't it wild?
And the houses, because there's a lot of older houses here, whereas Prescott Valley is mostly flat and it's all new mostly.
Correct.
But here, there's so many challenges as an appliance person, trying to deliver this stuff. But it's interesting because you'll deliver at some really old houses that are really nice and you can appreciate the architects and
Absolutely.
everything. And
Side note about Falcon's Nest, you should read some on the internet about it, but it was built by an architect who I believe had lived in the valley and then built a place up here. And there was a pretty big uproar when his plans were proposed to the city for obvious reasons, right? And so obviously it was eventually built. And if the new owner is listening, I really want to do a podcast there. I've met the current owner, really very unique guy who fits the house perfectly.
I was going to say it'd probably be a unique person.
It is just, but it is a phenomenal. I want to go through a tour so bad. It just
it's always intrigued me. I just kind of want to see
exactly.
it.
That's what I'm saying.
But
yeah,
I will say, and I wish I had more information on this, but I was kind of on the back end of this story because I was cleaning up in the process, but my partner at the time, he was talking to the owner of this one house. It was in Prescott. Okay. I guess, again, a very unique individual that used to own the house, and they were describing the colors, and it looks nothing like what they were describing because they redid everything.
Okay.
But they were telling me that the owner was a famous photographer for Arizona highways.
Interesting, yeah.
And I can't remember the guy's name.
Okay.
But like I said, I was just kind of hearing this on the side while I was trying to clean up and get stuff done. And I was like, just things that, just things like that, you'd come up.
Yeah.
So
I love interviewing small business owners, people like you. And I'm also trying to branch out to retired people who have most of them have moved here, but they've had careers like being a photographer for Arizona highways or whatever it is that they did in their yesteryear. And it's fascinating because we do have so many people move here and they have such unique stories. So I love it. So how much music were you playing when you were at the printing press? I mean, like, how much is that? Let's start kind of moving into Cox Custom Pickups and how in the world that all got going.
Well, I found out after high school my music career as far as being in a band was not going to happen. And it's funny because guys that I knew in high school actually kind of had a pretty good, dose of that. They did touring and stuff. And that always kind of made me a little jealous. Like, I would love to do that because they got to travel and do things. Mm-hmm. I mentioned before that one of those people was Orion, who's the guitar player in Steven's band. Mm-hmm. We were in a band together.
Okay.
And we were trying to do something, but it never really took off. Mm-hmm. We did like a school talent show thing and a house party, and that was it. That was the extent of that. Yeah. But he actually got to move on and do other things. But because I got into printing and it was like a full-time job and, so I was busy with that. So my other option, because I still play guitar at home. Yeah. But as far as the band situation, because of my hours, it just wasn't going to happen. Mm-hmm. So I just never pursued it. So I figured if I can't be in a band, the other thing that interests me is how does this thing work, And for quite some time, I was kind of self-teaching myself how to do setups and all that stuff. And I thought I was pretty good at it until, I don't know, about 7 years ago.
Okay.
I got in touch, a friend of a friend, acquaintance, whatever. Mm-hmm. Basically, I got a call from this guy named Neil Moser, and he wants me to do painting for him. And at the time, I didn't know who he was because he found out through a guy that owned a guitar store in Prescott Valley, Guitar Heaven. Tim Hills, I believe is his name. Okay. Anyways, I used to do work for him, but I guess I'm not sure how it all, conspired, but I get a call from this guy named Neil. He wants me to do painting because I used to do custom painting for a while. Okay. And I just wasn't interested. Yeah. And again, without knowing who he was at first, because I had to Google him real quick.
Okay.
And then I recognized him.
Uh-huh.
And I realized who he was.
Okay.
Like, oh. So after he told me what he was paying his painter, you're like, okay, I'll see what I can do. But, you know, at the end run, I couldn't do it.
Okay.
But I wanted to offer something else to him. I was like, well, you know, I've been doing this hobby because I started winding pickups, getting into that around, I don't know, 2006, 2007, I think. So I told him about that and, you know, okay. So I went by the shop one day and gave him a guitar that had my pickups in it, and he really liked it.
Okay.
And so from that started that friendship.
Real quick, back up. Are you going to tell us who Neil is? Because you shared with me before the podcast kind of Neil's background, which just make sure you tell the people.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think you have a problem with that. But basically, Neil Moser, he started, his career goes way back, actually, but I'll stick with what kind of people know him for.
Okay.
He started out with BC Rich guitars in early 74.
Okay.
And I remember telling you from 74 to 84, 85, because he worked for like a 10-year period.
Okay.
Then he had like a little short thing after that, but then that was kind of considered the golden era for BC Rich guitars.
Okay.
And
so he's the man behind those.
he's one of the guys, but he's up there, you know, because he ended up designing one of the shapes.
Mm-hmm.
It's called a the shape that he's famous for is called the bitch 10-string, but it's spelled B-I-C-H, which is kind of a twist on BC Rich.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a funny story behind that too, because they didn't know if they could sell that guitar with that name, and you know it did. But anyways, he designed that shape, and he named a few guitars. He designed all the electronics for the guitars, and they were very elaborate with all these switches and knobs, which, you know, some people liked, some people didn't. But anyways, he I forgot when he started his own Neil Moser guitars, but he started out, he was in California, then he moved up here, and you know, but he's got a shop here in Prescott Valley, but it's not open to the public,
right?
Because if he had people coming in, he'd never get anything done.
Correct.
But he's a very nice guy. So if you were to contact him through his website, Neil Moser Guitars, you know, you can contact him through there. But I started helping him out because I noticed he needed help, and I just told him, hey, I used to do final sanding because I wanted to learn. Because I didn't know how to build a guitar. I thought, you know, I can put one together.
Right, but that's different.
Yeah, but he was building neck-through body guitars, so they weren't bolt-on.
Okay.
So, but he learned the way that BC Rich used to. And BC Rich had a bunch of old-school Mexican luthiers.
Right.
That came from, I never know if I'm saying it right, is Paracho, Mexico. So, anyways, someone probably will correct me on that. But, anyways, the owner of BC Rich had all these Mexican luthiers, and they were doing everything by hand. Like, it was insane.
Yes.
And that's, so he showed me how to build a neck-through body guitar in that style, in that sense. And I have a guitar that I built from scratch using those methods. But I worked for him, or I shouldn't say work because I was never employed with him. I just helped him out for about 7 years until now. But now that I'm busy with work, I just don't have time to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're still good friends, and I'll still help him out, build pickups for him. But so I kind of just focus on my pickups now. Okay. But if the time ever came up, I would definitely try to get back into helping him out because I was doing all his refurb work while he did his own brand name guitars. So I would do all the repairs on old vintage BC Riches that would come through the shop, cut the wings off, build new necks, whatever they needed.
Man.
And then sent them out to California to be painted. And the painter that he has is incredible.
I mean, it's like they're like works of art, I'd imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, the painter he's another amazing person too. His name is Dan Lawrence.
Okay.
And his shop is called DRL Graphics, and it's in Southern California, but his paint jobs are amazing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like the icing on the cake once the guitar gets back.
Right.
But, yeah, so I learned a lot about setup and just the old school methods of doing things.
Okay.
I mean, learning how to make a you probably don't know what this is. It's called it's usually made out of bone, but you can use different materials, graphite, corian.
Okay.
Corian being the countertops. But he likes to use bone, and it's called a bone nut. And it's I'll show you on here, but it's just a little piece that sticks between the headstock and the fretboard, and it just keeps the strings, in place. And, he just teaches me how to make that, how to cure it, and how to cut the bone, and just a lot of old school methods.
Pop your guitar out here. We can just. I think you can at least lay it on the table so you can point to some things that don't know what I'm talking about. Or I don't know what I'm looking at, but you can show us.
Yeah. And as far as Cox Custom Pickups go, I don't necessarily do build guitars anymore because I don't have a place to do it. I mean, it's mostly just the pickups, but I'll do local stuff, for people. I haven't quite branched out to doing out of town stuff like he does, just because I kind of like to work at my own pace, so to speak. So, oops. Anyways.
Oh, this is a guitar.
I
don't know much more about it than that.
This is one I built on my own, and I designed the shape, which it's not original per se because this shape it was considered like a super strat, and there are a dime a dozen, so I'm not taking full credit in that sense. But he had a shape that was similar to this that I liked.
And you're referring to Neil?
Yes.
Okay.
And I asked, hey, can I take your shape and just put my own twist on it? So I modified an existing shape that he had and just added my preference to it.
Yeah.
Mostly, in here. But the bone nut, this is what I was talking about.
Okay.
So this is made out of a femur bone, cow. So what I do is I just go to Sprouts, and you can buy a pack for $6, $7, and it's already pre-cut, and they're wide enough to make bone nuts. But what I do is there's a little secret to it, and I won't give it away too much because it was kind of his secret that he handed down to me. So I put it in the oven, and I put it for a certain temperature, and I cure it for a certain amount of time. And then I can cut it and shape it to whatever. And, a lot of people say that a bone nut's going to sound better, but in reality, it's you only get the tone of that when you have open strings.
Okay.
As soon as you fret, it's out of the equation.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
But yeah, this is all built from scratch. Just from all the stuff that I learned from doing refurbs, and I had permission, and he gave me permission to put his logo on it.
Okay.
Which this is his logo, and I designed the headstock myself. But yeah, I mean, this is all done by hand.
Man, so I'm fascinated with artists, and it doesn't matter if you do metal fabrication or you build guitars. There's just something about this. it's a work of art to me.
Yeah,
I just
and
think it is.
I
This
can
thing's
appreciate that with
beautiful,
anything.
right? And that's one reason I like with the podcast is because I get to have people like you on that are artists in your own realm that I appreciate. I'd put this on my wall. I would never play it, but like I literally think it's really pretty.
I've heard stories of like lawyers, high-end lawyers, buying insane, high-end guitars just to put in their office as a conversation piece. They don't play.
Right.
They just...
This is a piece of art.
Yeah.
There you go.
And
you just happen to play it. And I imagine most people do.
It's
who own them in any way.
Yeah, I mean, if I was in a band playing live, I don't know if I would play this live just because I'd be so nervous and scared, And, I wouldn't want to poke someone's eye out or anything. But, I mean, yeah, so there is definitely an artistic vibe that goes into it because,
absolutely,
you want to think it out. You don't want it to look, just thrown together. Everything's been thought out. But what's really cool about this guitar is some of it's been repurposed.
Okay.
So Neil had a lot of stuff that was already kind of prefabricated. So I went into looking. I didn't want to waste wood, and building guitars, you can waste a lot of wood.
Oh, I bet.
And we tried to repurpose as much of that wood as possible. And like this, a lot of people think this is a one-piece top, with this quilt maple, and it's actually 3. So you got one here, one here, and one here.
Okay.
And they're all different pieces of maple. They're not from the same cut. And they just happen to match up perfectly, pretty close, And the neck was a maple neck that he had that I repurposed.
Okay.
So I can't take credit for making the neck, completely by hand. But, just stuff like that, just going through and making sure I don't, I wanted to try to recycle a few things.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
So, and, it just, I even got creative with these side dots.
Yeah.
They sell either white or black, like these round rod that you can just put in there, cut. But I figured out a little trick on how I want to put something different, and you'll see that they match the color of this. So I got creative and figured out a way to make my own side dots, and the material I used was a guitar pick, a really heavy, thick guitar pick, and I was able to punch holes in that and create the side dots. So when I sanded them down, they were flush.
Yep.
So
are those for when you're playing? You can look at those.
Yeah,
dots
it just
and
gives you an indication because as you can see, a lot of times guitars will have these markers also on the front. I decided not to do that, and that really can sometimes screw people up because they're looking here and they can't see.
Makes sense.
I've been playing since 95, so it's like I know where everything's at.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I'm still learning how to play guitar though.
Yeah. Well, of course. It's lifelong. These are pickups?
These are my pickups.
These are your pickups. So talk a little bit about pickups and what in the world. Just go down that.
Okay. Again, back to, just wanting to know how things work. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
Like I said, I think I started in 2006, 2007. And, all my guitars had this certain brand of pickup in it. And I liked them. That was fine. But I was like, man, I want to do something different. Yeah. And what kind of sparked the road to wanting to do my own pickups is I found out that my parents' neighbor at the time, he was starting to wind his own pickups.
Okay.
And he used to build refurbished old Buick Skylarks and stuff.
Nice.
And I've helped him out with that, and I always did a really good job.
I love old cars.
And I can go into stories of how you would do that because I remember having to lift bodies off of frames and stuff for him. Anyways, he was really getting into guitar, and but he was kind of a one niche road type guy. Like he wanted a certain guitar and he wanted a certain sound.
Okay.
And I remember him saying that, yeah, you know, all these guitars I buy, it's just the pickup just wasn't doing it for me. So as something he did for himself originally, he started winding pickups. I'm like, So he started telling me kind of like where he was getting.
Yeah.
Kind of. He wasn't telling me everything though, because it was, you know, hush hush for him. Like I was gonna like try to put him out of business or something. I was just curious, you know. But you know, as soon as I found out that, okay, well, if he can do it, then I can do it, you know, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, you know, to get a winder for this type of thing can be very expensive.
Okay.
And I figure I'll play it smart. It's like, you know, there's companies that will sell kits, like a whole pickup kit that you can wind yourself, and you can buy a small spool of wire.
Okay.
But the winder part was like, I still need something to wind it.
Yeah.
And there's a misconception of hand wound and machine wound. The reality is a pickup is wound on a machine regardless. The difference between the two is the machine wound, it's wound on a machine, but then on the other end, there's another machine that guides the wire and does the pattern. And, you know, that's fine. That's, you know, there's plenty of great sounding pickups that are done that way. But the other difference between hand wound is, yes, it's wound on a machine, but you're on the other end with the wire between your fingers, and the wire is like, you know, a strand of hair. It's that thin, and you're guiding it. So you're controlling the tension and the way the pattern sits on the bobbin. And a lot of people feel that a hand wound pickup is going to be more harmonically sound better, just better tone. And there is definitely some truth in that, because like you go back to old vintage pickups, because that's kind of how they were done.
Yeah.
And people will spend $1,000 on a set of old Gibson humbuckers.
Makes sense.
Because they were hand wound, not knowing the way they sound at all. They will just, you know, that's from a 59. Yeah, here's $1,000. You know, but anyways, the biggest challenge was I had to figure out how to wind these pickups on a machine.
Okay.
And then I had to figure out, well, I need to be consistent, because if I find something I like, I need to be able to recreate it. So I started going on YouTube, Google, and I saw these different ideas of what people were doing to wind a pickup. So I took what I thought was best from each little thing.
Yeah.
So I got myself a sewing machine, an old Singer sewing machine from like a thrift store. And I dismantled all the moving parts to where all I had was the big bobbin that sits on the side.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I wanted to move. Okay. So I figured that out. And then I built a mound to sit on front of it. And then I had to figure out, like, okay, now that I got that figured out, I got to keep count somehow.
Yes.
So I found, I can't remember what it's called, but you put it on your bicycle. It's a little thing that read back information.
Okay.
So it goes down to your fork, and there's a little sensor, and then you put this magnet on your spoke. So every time it goes around, it reads back information, and it flips that sensor. So I bought one of those very cheaply, cut the sensor off, and then I was like, okay, I got to hook this up to, I figured out that you can use the calculator on your computer. So I got an old mouse that had a USB port on the end. So I took the mouse apart, took that sensor, soldered it to the right click of the mouse, plugged it into the computer, brought the calculator up, and then you put the equation 1 plus 0 equals, or 0 plus 1 equals, leave the arrow on the equal sign.
Okay.
And then on the then I placed the sensor over the big bobbin on the sewing machine, and I embedded neodymium magnets, really, really, really strong magnets, and I got it it's close to that sensor every time it goes around. So now, every time that sensor went around, or the magnet, it would trip that sensor, and it would hit the on the mouse, on the calculator. So 0 plus 1 would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So every time it went around, it counted as 1.
Yeah.
So I got that figured out, and then I had to. Oh, it had the sewing machine had one of those foot controllers. Okay. So I took a wall mount from like a hardware store. Remember the old on-off switches that were on a knob? It had a click on there.
Yeah.
It was a dimmer switch. So I got one of those and wired it to that because it had an old one of those big ceramic resistors in there.
Okay.
And it gets hot. So I cut that off and just hooked it up to one of those, dimmer switches. And once I found a speed, because if you go too fast, it won't register on the calculator. So I had to find the speed. Once I dialed all that stuff in, then just start winding.
Dialed in.
Yeah. So I broke a lot of wire.
Trying getting all that.
But once I got it figured out, and I did a few, and then I started to figure where I can buy parts instead of kits. Like actually source the parts out, and
for the pickups.
Yeah, and started to learn all the little quirks and differences. Because with pickups, I mean, like I said, you can do low output, mid output, really high output. Okay. You got to know what size wire, and what and you got to know what your advantages of that wire is. Like 42 gauge is a typical.
Okay. That's tiny.
Yeah, it's very very thin, but you get even thinner on certain pickups. 42 gauge is like a lot of people use that for vintage and low output pickups, and then if you want high output, then you got to go to the next one, which is 43. Then you can get even higher. I've heard of people doing 44 gauge, which is specialty type stuff. Yeah. But and then you got magnets, different magnets. So you have Alnico and ceramic. But the thing with Alnico is they have different grades. So they have Alnico 2, 3, 4, 5, and 8. And basically the numbers kind of indicate the properties of that magnet, I believe. So like 2 will have more of this material than say 4. Yeah. So on and so on. I mean, you can just go days and days of what a pickup does, but the reality is, and there's a lot of technical things I could probably go into, which I'm still learning the technical part of it. But, as long as you find a good, once you do a few and you find something you like, and then, of course, when other people like what you have, then then you're doing good and you just stick with it. Yeah. But I'm always trying to do something different. Okay. And that's what I like about what I do. And because it's mine, I can,
it's a playground for you practically.
Exactly. I can do what I want. And I try to keep that mentality and push that onto the customer. Yeah. Because the customer will can you do a pickup such and such and such? And I always kind of tell them, it's like, well, wouldn't you want to have something that's
unique or maybe...
And some people they really don't know what they want. They hear that, supposedly this is going to sound better, but they don't know what they're looking for. So sometimes I have to kind of push them into well, what do you play? And and so far everyone's been very happy. Yeah. And I've always had returning customers, and and it wasn't until I hooked up with Neil is when this stuff really started to take off.
Makes sense.
But because my pickups are all over the world right now. I mean, we got some in England and
that is so cool.
South America.
Just naturally through word of mouth over time.
Yeah. Because I got to know some of the customers that Neil's customers, when I was doing work for him, and a lot of them, they want to take a shot in the dark. Like, well, can you make pickups for this? And yeah, I can.
Uh-huh.
So I set up a little deal with Neil where he gets a cut,
Great.
and and I get to meet cool people, and
Totally.
basically, and I always tell them, try to think outside the box.
Right.
Like, what do you want? Like, for instance, last set I did is I did one for Orion.
Okay.
And he's really good about let me do what I do best. And I think that was
Just kind of be creative in a sense.
and I think that's a good way to approach any artist with anything, whether, like you said, metal work or woodwork.
Yep.
As soon as you start pigeonholing that person to do a certain thing, then, well, why did you go to that person in the first place?
I just did a podcast with Ian Russell from Ian Russell Gallery. He's on Whiskey Row. He told me he does hardly any commissioned pieces, meaning he will not accept someone like, hey, I need you, Paul, to do A, B, and C for me. He goes, it just kills the creativity. It's kind of, he'll do it, of course, but it's that idea where the creativity just doesn't flow.
Yeah, and as an artist, I totally get that.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you start restricting that person, then, then you're not going to, even the customer, they won't admit it sometimes, but they won't get exactly what they want. They'll be disappointed. And, of course, they won't, realize that, you got to let the person do what they do best. And trust me, it will work out.
Yep.
And so a good example is this guitar. When I sent it to paint, and the guy that painted it, Dan Lawrence, I was like, this is kind of the idea I want. And I sent him pictures. If you can do anything, you just do your thing, So here's my ballpark.
Here's an idea. Yeah.
But if you feel like it's going to be,
go with it.
Yeah. If you see anything that you want to make better, please, by all means, do your thing. Because I
love that.
I want your paint job. I don't want you to be forced into something else.
Yep.
So with the pickups, I try to, like I said, to open up the customer a little bit. And it's like, well, do you really want that? Pick,
I love
let's pick your brain.
I love it.
But Orion, like I said, we worked together, and we actually kind of made a signature set.
Okay.
Because I kind of sponsor his band, basically. So I take care of all his guitar work, and I've been doing Michael's stuff as well lately. And so I was like, we've done a few sets that were
enough to...
Yeah, so I was like, well, how about... Because that's the other thing, is like, why don't you offer any, models? And I really don't, but I'm starting to do that now.
Okay.
And the reason why I didn't offer models before is, again, I want people to, if you're going to spend this kind of money, really dig deep in what is it you want. Because I want each pickup to be theirs.
Right.
But I do have little base models that I'll go if they can't figure out and just pick their brain. But Orion, we came up with a set called the Nebula Series.
Okay.
And there's 3 variations of that pickup, and they have numbers behind them.
Nice.
And each number indicates a personal thing with him.
Okay.
But those numbers also indicate to me, oh, okay, so that one's going to be this pickup, this one's going to be that pickup. And and the covers, he likes to put covers on them, not quite like these, but and he's like, hey, you think you can do this? Yeah, let's do it. So we're constantly
That's
creative.
Awesome teamwork.
But Orion's also a very creative person as well. So, he totally gets it. You know, he's like, because he's at the point, he's like, I'll pay you to just do the whole thing. Just, because he's had enough work from me that he's like, I like the way you do it. So
you guys know each other well enough.
Yeah.
To know
instead of doing it halfway, just just take the whole thing, and he lets me go nuts on it.
That's awesome.
And he's happy every time.
Yeah.
So
that is so cool.
But it's funny because the first time he actually gave me a guitar to work on was his pride and joy. And I think I had him really nervous at the time.
I'm sure.
Because it was a rare 81 Gibson Les Paul
Silver
Burst. which any guitar enthusiast would be like, yeah, that's pretty. And I did a complete refret, which is these are frets right here.
Okay.
And the frets on them were pretty worn, so I had to pull them out and put new frets in and re-level the fingerboard. And I'll admit I was a little nervous because that's not a guitar I want to screw up. But I think once I did that and he got it back, that was like, okay.
Yep.
Everything's going to be cool. So after
you
that, he
passed
didn't
the
care.
test, Paul.
Yeah, so.
No, that's great.
But, yeah, so I've been focused on Cox Custom Pickups and working on that. And I try to post, my stuff when I can. Sometimes it'll be a while before I post something.
Naturally.
Or then all of a sudden I'll just have a series to post. And, I mean, between, I always joke about this because Orion keeps me busy. If I'm not doing something for Orion, then usually I am doing something for a customer. But if I don't have anything for a customer at that point, Orion's always got something for me. And
what a nice gig.
Yeah, so it works out. And I've been learning a lot from him and Stephen Kinsley. He may not know that or not because I always watch what he's doing. And taking his podcast that he would do on YouTube and stuff and kind of take that instead of using it as a band sense, using it as a business sense.
Right.
Because, he talks about taking your band and using it as a brand, which is essentially, treating it like a business.
Correct.
And he has a lot of good points. So I've been kind of stealing a little bit here and there for my own purpose.
Good.
Again, I don't know if he knows that or not.
What's the name of his podcast?
I don't know if he does that anymore.
Okay. What was it? Any idea? I'll put it in the description.
Sorry.
If we don't remember it now, we'll put it up there.
I have it. I subscribe to it.
Right.
I just pull it up. It's like putting a phone number in your phone.
I know.
You put it in, you forget. Sorry, Steven.
Yeah, sorry.
But like I said, I've been learning a lot and,
Good.
learning a lot on my own too. So.
Artists are typically lifelong learners. Like, that's just how it works. You don't
and I strongly feel if you come off like you think you already know it all, then
obviously
that's the biggest mistake.
Yes.
There's always room to learn.
Always.
And I think it's like in your position, like you get to interview all these people that do all these different things. So from an artist aspect is you can always pull something from each person. You get why they're doing what they're doing. Like I said, I was really into like what Jesse James, West Coast Choppers, when he first came out, and I like the fact that whether you like him or not, I know he's one of those personalities, but like I can't deny what he does. I mean, everything he does, it's like, wow,
It is off the charts.
Yeah.
It's a piece, like I would take one of those in my house as a piece of art.
Yeah. And, I appreciate that stuff. When it came to custom painting and all that stuff, I mean, I appreciate all of it.
Yeah.
And there's always room to learn. And I feel like that with my pickups because as time goes on, the ordeal that I go into making a set, I don't just take the bobbins and then just whatever, put them on the machine, slap them on. I mean, I'll actually kind of prefabricate, as in put them together, put the magnets and everything, and I'll check in a certain lighting, make sure that because you got a set of pole pieces that go across here, which you don't see on these. These are actually kind of a different set of pickups. These are what we call active. Okay. And I only made 2 sets. I don't know if I'm going to go into doing active pickups, but this was just something of my own. And anyways. That's fun. Yeah, so you got a set of pole pieces. And so like when I put pickups together, I'm a firm believer everything has to be connected. It has to be as one. Okay. So I'll check in the light, make sure the pole pieces are touching the magnet on either end. If not, I take a file and I file the inside of the bobbin and put them together. So, I mean, there's a lot of little detailed things, that go into it. Because, I mean, it takes me to do one pickup. Yeah, how many hours? 3-4 hours. Okay. And like I said, if I was just slapping them together, it'd probably be an hour and a half, 2 hours. Right. But, I make sure every piece is right. I'll check I want it to be, especially when you're spending, a decent amount of money.
Yeah.
I want it to be right.
Absolutely.
And it wouldn't be the first time that I've had to redo a complete set because I wasn't happy with it.
Yeah.
I actually had to do that the other day.
Right. That's probably one of the best signs a customer can have is buying something from someone like you and going and learning that, man, he made sure to make it right the fifth time, if that's how many times it took. Just knowing that's
and you have to be able to call yourself out.
Yep.
You can't let pride get in the way, but you can, you have to have some pride in what you do, but, again, you have to be able to sit back and would I play this? No. And there's been, like I said, rare cases where I've had to do that where, I'm not happy with this. Mm-hmm. So I'll just redo it real quick. Yeah, it's a loss in time, maybe a little money, but it's not that much.
In the big scheme of things, it's not. Yeah.
Because I'm a firm believer that as soon as you do something that's not right by the customer, they're gonna talk more about that than
correct.
Than
that's how we are as people. It's unfortunate, but that's how it works.
Yeah,
most of the time.
That's just the way people are. Yeah. So, and that's when I deal with customers and and that's another thing too is you never want to be rude to customers, even if they're just red in the face screaming at you.
I know.
You got to be the better person, suck it up, and because I just can't fathom being that kind of person. But I rarely run into people that are screaming at me. So.
Okay, I'd imagine.
But
that's awesome.
It's good to be don't ever sink to that level. Just, But I take pride in what I do, and I'm happy with what I do, and But as far as a business goes, I don't treat it like a business. I could do more with it.
Yep, you shared that.
I probably should, and the way things are going, I think this cut out. But I'm thinking about branching out a little bit more. But as the time goes on, I'm happy with the word of mouth, and it has done well for me.
Yeah.
So there's still growth in, doing this. But I enjoy it. I take it. I try to treat it like a hobby because I don't want to treat it like a business because. As soon as it becomes work, then it's no fun.
Work. It's different.
Yeah,
it does change.
So
yeah,
but it's every time I do something, different. I make notes of everything I do, and so I try to learn and grow every time I do set.
Every time. Yeah, there's a couple words that come to mind: intricacy and nuance, and I love when people describe. Those things about what they do, and I just think it's awesome.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing all that.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah. 2 more sections before we close up. What keeps you in Greater Prescott?
As of right now, family keeps me here, and one of the things I enjoy about Prescott in Prescott Valley. I live in Prescott Valley,
right.
So, but I like that you can get 4 seasons here. Mm-hmm. My wife's like, no, it's 3. I'm like, she thinks it's, and sometimes it goes from it'll be cold and it'll be hot. You know? But, you get 3 seasons here, and I think fall and winter are my favorite.
Nice.
So I like the snow, and I like when fall comes around with all the colors.
Fall's my favorite.
And, being where I'm at, 10 minutes I can be in the forest, or I can be, maybe not desert, but,
high desert.
Yeah, you get a little bit of everything.
You do. Mm-hmm.
And it's nice. And, and when I moved here from California, it still was a culture shock because I went from just crowded city traffic to just laid back, easy, and I was here when antelope were just on the side of the street,
Yep.
herds.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never seen that before. I'm like, oh, that's crazy,
Yes.
And oddly enough, one of the things I remember, when I first moved here, no graffiti. I don't know why that stuck out to me. I just, being in California in the city, you always saw graffiti.
Right.
Here, nothing.
Yep.
So, but yeah, what keeps me here is, right now is family. But, I enjoy the weather because it's, like Phoenix, I couldn't do Phoenix.
Right.
It's too hot.
That's why I left. That's why I'm here. It's great.
So
it's a great mix.
Yeah. So you get a little bit of everything.
You do.
And it gets hot, but not too hot.
But not too hot.
It gets cold, but not too cold.
Not too cold.
Not like Flagstaff.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Those guys get buried.
Yes.
But that's the great thing about Prescott. So
I agree.
Probably be here for quite some time.
Good.
So I don't have any plans of moving anytime soon. So
no announcements.
No.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. We're going to wrap it up. I've got 7 questions that I'll ask you. You answer with the first thing that comes to mind. If you have more than one answer, give that as well.
Okay.
Here we go. What is your favorite thing about Greater Prescott?
Probably going back to the Four Seasons. And the fact that, like I said, within a 10-minute span, you can be deep in the woods or high desert, just there's plenty of things to do around here. And sadly, I don't take advantage of it half the time because, busy with work. Busy. But like the other day I took the kids up, what's that road? That road where you go to Lynx Lake.
Walker.
Walker.
Yep.
Yeah, we went down Walker Road, went all the way down until it turns into dirt, and they're like, okay, well, let's just keep going,
Oh, man.
So,
that is one of the prettiest areas in all of this Greater Prescott.
Yeah, so
phenomenal.
Just go back there, hit Potato Patch, and then it's like, okay, well, let's keep going. So take a right. And then
nice. You guys got back there.
Yeah, and then there's that little private lake, Hacienda Lake.
Yep.
Which I'm just like, man, he's got it all fenced in, and it's like, ugh.
Yep.
But that's got to be so nice to wake up in the morning too.
Yeah. Walker is one of my favorite areas.
Yeah, and then you can pull out like as soon as you you go down there, and then you stop at their Senator Highway, and then what was it, Black Canyon? Mm-hmm. No, not Black Canyon, or Crown King.
Oh.
Anyways, we took Senator and just went back down Senator, but there's I think some mining area just off the side of the road. Mm-hmm. You can stop anywhere and just have a good time and just explore, you know. California, not so much.
It's different. Absolutely.
But those are the fun things I like about the Prescott area. So
those are good things.
Get lost in the woods.
Totally. What's your favorite restaurant in Greater Prescott? You can name more than one.
Thing is, we don't really go out too much anymore because
I know,
man.
I have kids too. We don't eat out a whole lot.
Wow, I got to really think about that. Currently, it's hard to say, but I remember eating at Zeke's a lot. When we first moved here, and I actually went there not too long ago.
Okay,
and it was like the food's still great. There's a lot of good little places like Gurley Street Grill.
Yep.
That's still there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if I have a favorite.
That works.
So,
what's the number one thing on your Greater Prescott bucket list?
That's a good question. Wow. I don't know if I've got an answer for that one.
Okay.
I thought about moving up into Prescott, but I don't know if I'm ready to do that. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know that one yet.
All right, think about it. What is your favorite all-time guitar?
That's another one that's it depends on my mood.
Okay. Give a few answers.
Well, I guess the guitar that's sitting in front of you is technically what everything I wanted in a guitar.
Yep.
But my mood can change. So as much as I like this guitar, you know, I have other guitars, ones that I didn't build, you know, that I can go to for a different sound, different feel. So it changes with my mood depending on what I want to play.
Yep.
So I don't know if I can ever have a favorite. But side note that every time I built a guitar, my wife and kids decided they have to have a name.
Oh.
So, and I was never into like naming my guitars, but it became a thing. So every time I built a guitar or something, they gave it a name.
I love it.
Like,
so
this one is named Mandy.
Mandy.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
And then I got one that looks just like this, but it's got a different paint scheme.
Okay.
And the kids, my youngest is into Batman and all that stuff, and he named it Poison Ivy, so it's named Ivy, as in the villain for Batman.
I love it.
And then I have a BC Rich Warlock that I refurbished. It's all black with white binding. This is binding right here.
Okay.
And they named it after a Marvel character, Venom.
All right.
So I just let them have fun on it. Whatever.
That's fun.
But
let them have fun.
Yeah. I don't have just one guitar. I mean, I have too many. I can't narrow it down.
When I asked a car guy sitting across in your seat, what's your favorite car of all time? It's like he named 5 or something because he's like, I can't pick one.
Yeah, as cars go on, there's quite a few too. I couldn't name one either. So
right. There you go. All right, next question. What are 3 words to describe living in Greater Prescott?
Well, I would say fun because like I said, you can go anywhere around here and get lost and just enjoy hiking.
Yeah,
so you got that. I like how, at least in my area for now, it's quiet. Living in the city and stuff. I mean, you get all that noise, so it's definitely it's calmer. It's quiet. And I don't know if this would be the same word as fun, but I would say enjoyable. Would that be the same?
No.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to be here. I'm glad it worked out the way it did. So, I mean, it's enjoyable to be here, and hopefully it doesn't get too crowded, but it is what it is. I mean, it's a great place to live.
It's a great place to live.
So, I mean, I get why people are moving here.
That's it.
But that's
why I moved here.
Yeah.
Okay. If you weren't doing Cox Custom Pickups, what other sort of side thing would you be doing?
That's a good question. I don't know. There's so many guitar-related facets that I'm involved with. Because, I can build them. I can wire them.
Yeah.
I even got into effect pedals, which is plugs into the guitar.
Yes.
Whether it's reverb, delay, distortion, flange, phaser, overdrives. That was another thing I got heavily into.
Okay.
I've learned, again, Google, YouTube, learn how to make my own circuit boards, how to print them, source all the parts out and put them together and make a fully functional guitar pedal.
Yep.
I don't know. If I wasn't making pickups, I'd probably be doing something else related to guitar. But, I have other hobbies as well. I used to do RC cars, and I'm not doing it anymore. But another hobby I like to do is comic books.
Oh, yeah?
And, I'm really deep into that.
Cool.
So I don't know. I mean, I it all depends. I'll find something that interests me.
I love it.
And because like I said, I used to do airbrushing, custom painting, old school pinstriping, which I still do the pinstriping. I don't do the custom painting anymore. Actually, I don't really do much of pinstriping anymore because of time, but I still have all the stuff.
Yes.
that was kind of an old school technique
Absolutely.
to learn that
Yep.
I got.
Those guys are artists. Holy cow.
Yeah. And it's funny, we were talking about letting the artist do his thing, because that's why you go to him, because you want his spin on it. Von Dutch, pinstriper.
Yeah.
I've read some crazy stories about him.
Okay.
Like you couldn't tell him what you wanted.
That
When you hired him,
makes
he's like,
sense.
pinstripe my car, and then you
Yeah,
start
you
telling
got
him. He'd be like, no,
Done.
I'm going to do what I think is best. Go away. He'd drink a bottle of wine and go to town.
Go to town, yeah.
It may not be what you wanted, but, it was still a nice piece
Then
of
you
art.
shouldn't have chosen Von Dutch.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those things.
Yeah, I just heard he was kind of, I don't know if rude, but he was just kind of like, I'm going to do my own thing. But that's what made him stand out.
That's what made him stand out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. My friend growing up, his dad had a high-end body shop and did a lot of resto stuff on old cars. And when he'd have the pinstripe guy come in, I mean, it was just to watch that guy put stripes down cars and stuff. It was a work of art. It was
It's hard to do.
phenomenal.
Like the Von Dutch styling, I would say is a little more easy to do than trying to lay a straight line. Because to me, trying to lay a straight line, that takes skill.
Oh,
Because you got
absolutely.
not only are you having to try to keep a straight line, and they'll put like a dummy line, a piece of tape to follow next to, but the art of it is keeping that line consistent. Because you're gonna have to stop a few times, load your brush, do it again. Yeah. So I mean, it's a very painstaking skill to learn. So
That's cool.
But I've never actually done like just a straight pinstripe across someone's car, but I've done flames and like the Von Dutch styling.
Yeah.
So I think I'd be more nervous just doing a straight line.
No, it makes sense.
Yeah. So
Last question.
okay.
What's your favorite summer activity in Greater Prescott?
When it comes to summer, I always loved being in the water. I had some friends, good friends of mine, and they got me into jet skiing.
Okay.
And not the sit-down ones, like the stand-up ones where you had to stand up.
A jet ski, not a wave runner.
Yeah. And they were really heavily into it. And they took me out to Parker, the river between Arizona and California. And that was the first time I got to ride a
That's so fun.
stand-up. And once I learned how to stand up on it and keep my balance, it was really fun. But you can do so much on those things.
Right.
But I enjoyed it so much, and they were always going out. So if they weren't going to Parker, they would go to Bartlett or Pleasant. So I actually bought one and, went out with them a few times. And I haven't done it in a while. I actually sold my jet ski to them.
Okay.
So I still, in a way, have it.
Yeah.
So like if
you
I
could
want
go if you needed to.
yeah, they'll let me use it.
Yeah.
It's still, in a way, mine, but I
That's
sold
so
it to
fun.
them. But I haven't done that in a while.
Okay.
But I always loved being, like, on the lake or swimming pool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if it's hot, I want to be in a
Water.
pool.
Yep.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense.
Or air conditioned, but... Yeah, I'm too white, so, like, when I'm out in the sun, I don't tan. I just turn red.
It is burn.
Yeah.
Not a good place to be.
Yeah, that's the Irish, so...
Yeah. Well, let's wrap it up. I
Okay.
know that you're not looking to take on maybe any work or too much work. So just kind of give a little pitch about what you do and kind of where you're at in terms of your workflow. And I think more than anything, if people are allowed to contact you with like questions and things like that, just give a little info.
There are times where I will deny work. It's rare. It also depends. Because it's funny because a lot of people, because they see this work, they think I still do it. And the misconception is like, no, I don't, unfortunately. I want to get back into building eventually.
Okay.
But the tools that I need, it's a laundry list and it's expensive.
Right.
because the guitars and all that was all because of Neil Moser when I was working for him, because I had the availability of the tools and he let me do
refurb stuff.
Yeah. So I was able to do that stuff, and I'm very thankful that I had that opportunity, because that's one of those learning things that I can't just buy at a school.
Correct.
Even though they do have Lutheran schools that you can go to. Okay. There's one in Phoenix. But, I mean, his is, I mean, you can't learn that in a school. But the guitar stuff that I am doing at home, I do the pickups, and I'll do small things like wiring setups, fret mills, bone nuts, and stuff. And I'll do that work, and they can contact me through Cox Custom Pickups on Facebook, or Cox Custom Pickups on Instagram. I do have an email, CoxCustomPickups@gmail.com, which rarely actually gets used. Everyone just usually goes through Facebook or Instagram, and people that know me, they usually just go through my personal. But like out-of-town stuff, like if someone was in a different state, wanted to send me something, it depends on what it is.
Right.
Because, and acoustics. A lot of people say, well, if you do electric, you can probably do acoustics. I'm like, it depends.
Yeah.
I've had people wanting to do refrets on acoustics, and the way I do frets on a guitar, I don't feel comfortable doing on an acoustic, because you kind of have you have to have a certain setup for it. And people say, well, I'm not worried about such and such. And it's like, well, because I hammer my frets in the old school way.
Okay.
And on an acoustic, when you get to the body, there's really nothing under the fretboard except for that thin top, and I don't feel comfortable hammering my frets, because then you got braces that are glued in, and those can come loose.
Yep.
And the reality is, I could probably get away with it and do it, and it'll be fine. But if something comes loose, then it's on me, and then I have to fix it.
Right.
And a customer will always say, "Oh, I'm not worried about it." I'm like,
when the time comes,
when you change your mind,
yes,
I don't want to be that guy, So I'll be honest with them. Like,
that's a great place, to be.
Because if I don't have the tools for it, I won't do it.
It's just not the right fit.
Yeah.
So, like, where I'll often leave people is, if you guys have questions about whatever it is that you need work for your guitar, ask Paul. Like, just start with the conversation. Is this even something
I mean, people can contact me and ask questions. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I mean, the worst I can say is yes or no. And I've also been known to, if it's something I can't do, mostly acoustics. Like if someone just needed a setup, I can look at it. Because again, acoustic instruments are so temperamental, and there's only so much I can do. I'll be gladly to pass that work off to someone I know that can do it. To kind of pass the favor along to someone else. Because the last thing I want to do is say, yeah, I can do that, and then I completely botch it. Because And I think that's, a smart way of doing it, because you don't want to bite off more than you can chew.
I agree.
Because you can get in trouble that way. And I've seen tons of people
You will get in trouble. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
stick with
goes back to,
you know.
where customers will more than happy to complain about you than say all the good things that you've done for them. So
awesome.
But, I'll be completely honest with the customer. And if I'm not comfortable with it, I'm like, I'm sorry. But, people are more than welcome to ask questions, and I try to give them a reasonable price on what they have. Sometimes it's a matter of, well, I have to see the instrument to see, and, go from there.
Yep. Makes sense. Awesome. I've had a blast, Paul.
It's so fun. I appreciate being here.
Take this the right way. I love when people geek out about what they do. There's just something about it that it fascinates me. It's a great story.
Thank you.
So thank you.
I'm glad you wanted to interview me. So you caught me off guard when you messaged me. Like, what? Really?
Yeah.
Me?
Does it make a little more sense now? Maybe sitting.
Yeah. I mean, it. Like I said, I didn't know how to react to it first. So I'm like, man, I got a little nervous just because I'm like, I don't know what to talk about. But I think it flowed nicely. So
did you remember that the video camera's on?
No.
Hardly, right?
I didn't want to be like I don't know if you've ever seen was it Talladega Nights with
It's been a long time.
yeah, where Will Ferrell he's doesn't know what to do in front of the camera
Oh,
and he
okay.
keeps putting his hands up and looking at
Oh.
the camera. And the guy's like, "No, put your hands down." Put your hands
That's
down.
funny.
Yeah, no.
You did great.
So
Yeah.
but
Casual conversation. We'll put it up, and if people have questions, they
okay.
can let you know.
Yeah, so I appreciate being, like I said, I appreciate being here.
You're very
and,
welcome. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for letting me tell my story, and looking forward to see what it looks like.
It's going to look like this. It's pretty
Yeah.
straightforward. So I will end it with this. If you guys have any questions about guitar-related stuff that you have heard that Paul that he's done in the past, that he's good at, let him know.
Yeah.
Ask him.
I'm
Like that. It's that start of if he doesn't know how to do it, he probably knows someone who does. You're a wealth of information.
Yeah.
Every guest that sits across from me is somewhat of an expert in what they do, whether it's big or small. And so, ask questions.
Yes.
Great place to start.
Feel free to contact me, and go from there.
That's
so.
what I always tell people.
And that's usually how it starts anyway. So.
That is it. Awesome.
But,
well, thanks for your time.
no,
I
thank you.
genuinely appreciate it. Like I shared before we started, let's end with a nice big smile. All right.
right.
Guys, thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.